Hello, magnificent human beings. My name is Landon with Yoga New Mexico, where we focus on empowerment, alignment, and strength. You are in the right place, capable and strong. It is Wednesday, time to look at a specific pose that is half pigeon. I think most people call it pigeon. It's called Rajakapotasana. And there are a lot of different things out there that I've heard about this posture in terms of, is your knee come out? Does your knee come in? Should your shin be, perfectly all the way out so that you can get really deep into your hip? Do you use a block? Do you not? We're going to talk about all that stuff and a very cool, unique trick to help you get deeper in your pigeon. Actually, we're going to talk about a lot of those things. So if you have a block, grab one. If not, maybe some towels, that would be good. Go ahead and roll out your mat, and I'm going to roll the intro screen. All right, so looking at our half pigeon pose. Now, again, I think this is a really cool posture to look at because there are lots of kind of different ways people talk about doing this posture, coming into it, getting into it, and exactly where everything should be in terms of your alignment. So let's take a very good look at that right now. Typically, you come into this posture from downward facing dog, right? Or maybe you come into it from lizard or, other ways. But either way, knee up near your wrist, you untuck your back toes, and here you are, the base of your half pigeon. Okay, so let's start dissecting this posture. First of all, lots of people have a tendency to keep their hips unsquare. So they'll slouch over and then come down. And if you see, my right hip back here is raised pretty high. So we want to keep our hips square as possible. Look at your back foot and make sure it is straight. So you don't want it kind of tucked in, and you don't want it the opposite way, which would be weird. And the reason for this is because if your foot is straight, it actually kind of encourages you to keep your hips square. So back foot nice and straight as you can make it. And next, we need to talk about this knee. So whichever knee is forward, I think there's going to be some people in the comments right now who are going to say, oh no, like you're supposed to have your knee out because I learned this. And that's cool. Please put those comments below. I would love to have a discussion because yoga is a practice. It is not a perfect. People have been taught so many different things about this posture. So I do not enjoy this version where your hip, where this knee is way out. And, if your knee is way out, then you can bring your shin a little bit more forward and still keep your hips square and still come down. Well, see what I'm doing? See how far this knee is out over here? See this? I don't think that helps you a lot in your pigeon. It will help you come deeper, but I don't think it's really deepening anything. I mean, if you have super, super open hips and flexible hamstrings, you probably aren't going to tell the difference one way or another. But for somebody who does have tighter hips and hamstrings, bringing this knee in so that it is in line with your hip here does a few things. One, it gets deeper into your like hamstring and glute kind of area. And also it encourages that like outward external rotation of your femur here because we really like to have that for things like your lotus posture, to have that leg kind of externally rotate. So I think keeping your knee straight in front of your hip here and encouraging that external rotation really, really helps us set us up for success for other postures as well. Also, what this does is your hip flexor on the opposite side, so way over here, that kind of helps it to open up more as well. Okay, enough about the stupid knee being in front of your hip. You get the point. From this point, then start to hinge on down. Okay, so notice how we didn't talk about our shin yet. And, Pigeon, it's great, right? Like, my hips are already yelling. Okay, where you should put your shin, and this really gets into how deep you should, can potentially, amplify. I'd like to think about Pigeon in terms of, and lots of other postures you can do this with, but it's either a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. Now, think bottom-up in terms of kind of where you are now and then where your flexibility is that allows you to come into the posture. So for me, I'm going to do the other side to try to stay balanced here. So for me to be able to keep my back, glute on the ground back here and still keep my knee in front, this is about as far as I can bring my shin out and parallel with the top of the mat. And then I can come on down. Now, every practice, I should be able to bring this foot up a tiny bit more and come on down. And then 2 weeks later, a little bit more, 3 weeks later, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it's a very, very slow process to help to get your shin all the way up and nice and parallel with the mat. So that's what I mean by a bottom-up approach. That's where I'm going to make my strides in deepening my pigeon, is by moving the shin slowly, slowly up, still keeping my hips square, still keeping this back foot nice and straight, this knee in front of my hip, right? Okay, so it's good to do that because that's where I think most of us are, but there's also a top-down approach, which is good because it gives your brain and it gives your body a mental cue of, oh, that's what it's like to be in that, perfect kind of alignment of the posture. And you can kind of start to work backwards a little bit, if that makes sense. So I told you about bottom up, where you are now in your practice. Here's the top down approach. So think up, if you're doing the top down, you need a block, top block, or props for the top to come down and remove the block. It's like a Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss book. Okay, so let's look at bringing this shin perfectly parallel with the mat. So knee still directly in front of your hip over here. Hips are square, right? And I'll place a block underneath. Hips are square, block, excellent. Okay, so this feels pretty intense for me right here. Back foot is straight. We're good. Okay. So, now, yes, my shin should be laying down on the mat, but it will get there with time. And I could start to come down, and you're going to feel this a lot differently in your hip flexor, in your hip, in your hamstrings, in your glutes, everywhere, right? So, very good to do this because, like I said, it gives your mind and your body something to strive for. It terms you know where you're going to be going. And as you progress, then you can start to come deeper and deeper and deeper by taking it down a level on the block. So it's a very slow process, but it really helps to get into different parts of your hips. And it's kind of like working backwards from, the best possible idealistic alignment of the pose, which is good because you're going to start to stretch different parts of your muscles than you would if you were just doing the straight bottom up approach. Eventually, you'll be able to move the block all the way out, keep your back glute on the ground, and I'm starting to cheat because now I'm lifting my back hip because I'm not fully there yet. And then you can come down into that nice pigeon. And if you notice, this hip is actually up a little bit. It's kind of hard to notice, I just feel it. So that's a little better. Elbows popping. Okay, there we are. That is your pigeon pose. And I'm going to leave you with this last little thing as kind of a bonus. And this is how I coach people, cue people into this posture, into a lot of my classes, because I think it really gets you deep, deep into your pigeon as safely and as quickly as possible. This is for the bottom up approach, not using, the block. So about that whole top up, bottom down approach, if you really like pigeon and you want to get further in your pigeon, then do a personal practice and do one side, bottom up style, and then do both sides. Do both sides. Always do both sides. Both sides, bottom up style, and then go through, a little short sun salutation, and then do both sides top down style with a block. And I think you'll start to make real strides really quick in your pigeon. Okay, very last thing that I want to run you through here is some really good like mental verbal cues to put you into your pigeon in a very deep, safe way. So in your down dog, identify your right knee, bring it up on the inside of your right wrist and set it down. Untuck your back toes. Make sure your back toes are straight. Bring your shin out as much as you can, but still keep your hips square. Walk your hands back so you're high in your pigeon. Okay, so here's the big trick. Inhale, push yourself directly up. Exhale, sink straight down. Don't hinge, but straight down. And you're going to notice you may need to move this back leg back because you are deepening, coming down, kind of getting your groin and your glutes closer down to the mat. Inhale, push directly up. Exhale, sink straight down. One more. Inhale, push up. Exhale, sink straight down. Okay. Hold right here. Envision you have a steel rod through your hips. You can't lift, you can't raise, you can only hinge from this point. That's where the only action comes, is at your hips. Slow, slow, slow. Hinge forward. And there you are. Oh man. Okay, so lots of awesome tips on your pigeon today. If you found this video of value, share it with somebody, tell somebody about it, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. You are a magnificent human being. You are in the right place, capable and strong. From my heart to all of yours, namaste.